Hi, I'm Angie DeArth from Inland Professional Title, and every Thursday morning we're going to be doing video blogs. You can find them on the internet at www.inlandprotitle.com, Facebook page, Twitter, or Pinterest. What we're doing for the month of March is we are doing it on generations. I wrote a class on the 4 generations that are currently in the workforce. It's a 3 clock hour class that I do for real estate agents, and it's turned out to be a very fun and informative class that I'm constantly doing research on. So the first week we did it on seniors, last week was on baby boomers, and this week we're going to talk about Generation X. So Generation X. Generation X was born between 1965 and 1979. They're between the ages of 35 and 49. Gen X's, they were part of the dot-com blow-up. The timing that they have been involved in is they've been one of the unluckiest generations out there, but it's made them a stronger generation. They are also known as the generations that was involved in the housing crisis, the banking crisis that went on. They had a lot happening in their generation that is really going to cause them to have different core values than any of the other generations. With this generation, they have the good thing about this generation is they're young enough to recover from all the things bad that happened throughout their generation. Here are some of the items we'll talk about as far as items that happened during growing up in their generation. Number 1 item on the list is the Space Shuttle Challenger explosion. Number 1 when it was surveyed throughout the United States. 2 was the Persian Gulf War. MTV, huge for this generation. Terrorist attacks. The OJ trial. Everybody remembers that Bronco going down the road. AIDS was huge during the growing up of this generation. Computers took off. 2 households. You remember if I talked about the baby boomers, how divorce all of a sudden became a bigger impact on the baby boomers because the moms with the rights of going out and working, all of a sudden now we got into divorces. Well, now this generation is the result of 2 households. Mothers had careers. Now here's one of the most fascinating things I found about Generation X. Who are their heroes? And when I do my classes, I will say to the agents, okay, come up with some of the heroes. And everybody sits there, no matter whether I have Gen X's, Gen Y's in the room, baby boomers, seniors. Nobody comes up with a name. And it's because they had no heroes. They are the only generation that had no heroes. So now we'll get into their core values. Self-reliant. They grew up at a time seeing America fail, politically and economically. The one thing with this particular generation for employers, when an employer tells a Gen X employee, okay, I have a project I want you to do, when they get that project back from that employee, it will be by far more than they ever expected, because they will do it in a shorter amount of time and they'll exceed what was even asked to be done of them in the beginning. This gen hates listening to voicemail. They like to leave the office at 5 o'clock because here's something they're known for. Work is something they do between weekends. And I thought, how fascinating, and that's so true. When we've gone around the room with the real estate agents, when I've done this class, that they tell me that this is so true. They don't like the 40-hour work week because they are able to multitask. They can get it done in 32 hours. So why work a 40-hour work week? And then that fits into the category of work is something they do between weekends. I loved it. They don't have a lot of friends in the company. They like to keep their friends separate from the business world. Unlike the baby boomers, who we are working so many hours that we developed friendships within our workforce. So it's a little bit different there. I thought that was very important how that came out. They live a balanced life. Very tech savvy, but do we know that? And they love to communicate, either email or text. Everything is text. So now let's see what goes on next with them. They hate phone calls. I love that one. We know they hate voicemail, so they really hate phone calls. Text, email, those are the two modes you're going to reach them. Okay, so next week we're going to talk about Generation Y. Fascinating generation. They're still growing up. They're in our work field. And it's a real fascinating generation. You're going to love that one. So now, if you need to listen to this again, you can go onto our webpage, www.inlandprotitle.com, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, and I look forward to talking to you next week on Generation Y.